we need to decarbonize our grid by 2035. That's just 11 or 12 years from now. So what you did is look back 11 or 12 years and just to see how far we come. Is that right?
That's right. And given that what we're doing in the next 12 years will be a magnitude larger, many times over, of what did in the past 12 years. So expect
Yeah, everything's
it's not an
accelerating.
equal comparison, but for inspiration, this is how far we've come. And by the way, by 2030, we need to be 80% decarbonized. And the places where we live in Canada, they're not doing that. There's lots of places, jurisdictions that are not aiming for that. But to meet climate goals, Paris climate goals, we need to be 80%. It's freaking perfectly possible to do. What it's not possible to do, though, is to wait for new technologies like SMRs, which we'll talk about later, and other things that just aren't there. But we have what it takes now to get to that 80% if we had the willpower.
Yeah, and just the production capacity to make all of these solar panels and wind turbines and batteries, that stuff all has to ramp up rapidly as well.
Really fast. Because next year is 2024, and then there's only 6 years left, if that. So, wind power was at 47 gigawatts in the world. A gigawatt is about what a nuclear power plant puts out. So the rating of wind power would be 47 gigawatts, but that means what it would be, well, it was turning at its peak, and wind doesn't do that.
Yeah.
It just uses a fraction of that. I forget what it is, though, off the top of my head. It's like less than half, I think. So now there's 1,000 gigawatts of wind in the world, Brian. 1,000.
From 47 to 1,000.
And that's without trying very hard. Now we're ramping up how much this goes back before the Paris Accord, okay? This goes back several years before then. In the world in 2011, solar was 100 gigawatts in the world. And that's in 2012, actually. I don't have the figure for 2011. So 100 gigawatts of solar in 2012, and now solar is getting 100 gigawatts per year installed. We're
Wow.
at the rate of 100 gigawatts per year. And that's how much what existed in the world in 2012. And it had a further run-up time than wind did, I think, if you look at it that way. By the end of next year, 4,500 gigawatts of solar will be in the world. That is 100 times what was there 12 years ago. 100 times.
James, this is blowing my mind, and I know this stuff pretty well because of our podcast.
Yes, well, that's why I thought it would be a good idea to review it, because we need to know how far we've come. A lot of cases, they say we only need to do 4, 5, 7 times what we have now, and what we have now in certain jurisdictions. And, sometimes it's like 3 times. We need 3 times. That's going to be a big deal. Well, come on. In the world, we have 100 times more than there was 12 years ago. So 12 years ago, lithium battery prices were $1,200 per kilowatt hour. That is $1,200 for 1,000 watts stored for an hour. Now they are 150 and falling fast. They now cost not half, not a quarter of the price, but 1/8 of what they did 12 years ago. And batteries,
Wow.
that's largely due to electric car, adoption. But we are now making them for the grid and for building storage. And electric cars are at the S-curve, hitting the S-curve that they're taking off in many jurisdictions in the world. So that is going to fall even faster than it did. I mean, there is a point where, you can't fall forever for lithium batteries, especially the pack price. But yeah, so in 2012, there were 130,000 electric vehicles sold that year. As many as 15 million will be sold in 2023. So that's how many were sold. 130,000. Now it's a 15 million mark this year. That's 115
Amazing.
times more. I did the math, Brian.
Wow.
it's,
Did you use a calculator?
I used an AI, a voice AI. So I pushing buttons is beyond my capability anymore at my age. Energy density has doubled for lithium-ion batteries, with tech showcasing another more than doubling is possible with the chemistries that are now being developed. So, yeah, And that's important because the more energy you can put into something, then you can start putting it in airplanes and cars weigh less, and there's many benefits to, you can go further with the same power and less weight, so then you go even further. It's great.
The Clean Energy Show.